Arsonists, looters. Many are wondering how these fires started. And the Santa Ana winds, these high-speed winds that come in once a year into California, are expected to pick up this week. The fire is still barely contained. The death toll has now increased to 24. And this, the LA wildfires, damages were estimated at between $130 to $150 billion, making this the most expensive fire in history. This is a terrifying story, my friends, but we all want to figure out how this happened. And the question is, because we don't want it to happen again. And now there's a lot to this story. There is illegal immigrant suspected arsonists. There are illegal immigrant looters. There's an individual who was arrested dressing up like the fire chief in an effort to loot homes. The exploitation of this fire is terrifying. And I have to wonder, when a society scales so large, is it just that there's nothing you can do about it? So there's a time-lapse video of how this fire began. And it starts as a small plume of gray smoke in a backyard garden. As the time-lapse continues, it becomes this raging fire that has wiped out let's just say the largest, the most expensive fire in history, not the largest, from a small little garden. Now, here's the terrifying reality of the scale of our society. When we're looking at these arsonists in a city, I mean, what does LA County have? 13 million people or some ridiculously large number like that? It takes only one person to destroy everything. Be it flicking a cigarette. Maybe you're driving a truck and a chain falls off the back of the car, sparking on the ground, igniting brush. Or somebody had a candle in their backyard and they were simply enjoying the sweet smell of vanilla and cinnamon, and then the candle tipped over and just like that. It takes the smallest of moments, the smallest of sparks. There's this video that went viral a while back where it's some young guys in front of their house and their lawns are all dried out. And the dude is joking and he takes a lighter and he lights like a piece of grass, and then it jumps and the whole neighborhood, all the grass has just been burned out. You can't control that spread. It happens too quick. And this is the terrifying reality of where we are. With criminals, gangs, suspected cartel arsonists and looters, the interests here from these evil people, it's difficult to compete with. Now, on top of all that, we have, of course, Gavin Newsom. We've got the fire chief. We've got the mayor. And oh boy, is there a lot of blame to go around. So let's first take a look at these stories of what's going on with these arsonists, these suspects, people being caught with blowtorches. My understanding is that one of these fires that was put out, a smaller one, and I say smaller, but actually was burning decently large. Like, I think it was around like 11 acres. Turns out that it was an arsonist who started it. They are trying to start these fires to force evacuations so they can loot the homes. And they're doing it because the people that have been caught so far, probably a small percentage of those that are actually engaging in this behavior. Now, what I want to add is, I'm looking at this map. And I mentioned that I know people in these areas, or, I've known people who live out in California. It's pretty crazy to see this. I can tell you, my friends, my understanding is they're all okay. But their families have lost things. And I'm looking at this map and I'm like, I know who lived there. Not a friend of a friend. But like, we went to that person's house in the Palisades once and it is gone. It's terrifying, man. And it may actually just be that it is arsonists and illegal immigrants and others that are doing it. Take a look at this story. Post-millennial. Homeless man arrested for arson in a Sousa park amid ongoing LA wildfires, according to police. Why? This is crazy. The suspect, identified as Jose Carranza Escobar, who the police described as a transient with a last known address in Azusa, was found standing near the flames. Now, this looks like a small fire that didn't spread out of control. But here's the issue. That's why they caught him. He was caught at the fire when it was small. for these fires that are larger. I think they're likely arson, many of them. And we just not caught who did it. The stories get absolutely crazy, man. Look at this. Suspect arrested with flamethrower near LA fire is an illegal immigrant. The flamethrower? Okay, it looks like a blowtorch of some sort. Take a look at this story. The homeless man tackled and zip-tied by onlookers who say he was trying to start fires with a blowtorch near a Los Angeles wildfire is an illegal immigrant who will likely be protected by California's sanctuary city status. The suspect, identified as Juan Manuel Sierra Leyva, is a Mexican national who was in the U.S. illegally, Immigration and Customs Enforcement told Fox News. He was chased and taken down by residents of Woodland Hills after they allegedly saw him torching old Christmas trees and debris on fire with what one resident described as a flamethrower soon after the massive wildfire began Thursday. Could this be the guy who basically started the wildfires? The suspect is being held on a felony probation violation, LAPD said, without detailing his previous conviction. Detectives are still investigating it as possible arson, but LAPD Assistant Chief Dominic Choi said Friday there was not immediately enough evidence for that charge. And how do you do it? How do you prove it? If this guy went, seriously, flicked a cigarette, how would you ever have any evidence? That tiny little spark. But wait, there's more. It keeps happening. Let me see if I can get to the, I want to grab the arson stories here so you can understand all this before we go into the greater details. Firefighters catch second arsonist in the act of starting new blazes in Los Angeles days after cops arrest illegal immigrant with a blowtorch. It's not stopping. Ruben Montes, 29, was arrested for arson on Sunday in Irwindale, California, roughly 16 miles away from Altadena, where the deadly Eaton fire continues to rage. Firefighters were responding to a small brush fire in Irwindale when they witnessed Montes starting blazes in the area. He was detained by officers at the scene and ultimately arrested for arson. Details surrounding the incident are limited, and police have not revealed where Montes was booked. Police have also not revealed if Montes was responsible for starting the brush fire or if any of the blazes that he allegedly lit have caused damage. It is also unclear if he has any ties to the other fires ravaging L.A. How much do you want to bet that the big fires, the Palisades fires, this was intentional? The reporting is that about a week before the fire started, they had put out a warning saying, we are in high fire season. It is extremely low humidity. It is very dry and there's no rain. Could it have been that someone saw that and said, now's my chance? I'm not entirely convinced. What I think is that the fire started and these looters and arsonists have realized as the Palisades fire destroys homes and forces evacuations, they can go in and take what they want. Take a look at this. This is from Nick's order. The man arrested after he was caught with a blowtorch attempting to start fires, an illegal alien. There's video of this. Look at this. Someone posted a video. We helped catch a guy trying to start a fire on my block. And that's the guy we mentioned earlier. The evil. The evil and the depravity. It's terrifying stuff, man. Take a look at this one. Criminal was arrested after he dressed up as a firefighter to loot homes. These people are the absolute scum of the earth. I don't want to say I can't believe it, but I can believe it. It looks like this might be the Pacific Coast Highway where they caught the guy. It's crazy to me, you know? It's absolutely crazy. Here's the latest on where the fire is, and we've got a lot more to break down, of course. There's rumors that the fire chief may have been fired already, but we're not entirely sure. LA Times reporting. Death toll from Palisades and Eaton fire climbs to 24. Look at this image, man. It's all gone. That's crazy. The Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center burns during the Eaton fire. The number of confirmed deaths from the devastating Palisades and Eaton fires jumped to 24 on Sunday evening. 8 of the fire victims died in the Palisades fire and 16 in the Eaton fire in Altadena, according to a news release from LA County Medical Examiner. 2 of the victims have been officially identified by the county agency. Victor Shaw, 66. He died from smoke inhalation. That's sad. I want to read this story for you. And this is where we get into the I think there's got to be criminal charges when I read this story. Let me pull up this story from CBS. Former child actor Rory Sykes, killed in LA fires as water ran dry, his mother said. I read this. I was filled with sadness and rage, the likes of which I rarely experience. And I'll say it lightly, but never, or I should say rarely, have I felt such rage that I wanted to be physical with the individuals who have caused this. The arsonists, the looters, these evil people. I'm going to give you just the story. Former child actor, he's disabled. And the story goes that his mom, her arm was broken and she couldn't lift him out. And he said, Mom, leave me. And so she went to get help. She went to the fire department and they said they had no water. When they rushed back to the home, the building had collapsed and Rory was dead. And there are looters and there are arsonists and they are people who have neglected and been their duties and been derelict. And this story really, really punches you in the gut. It's brutal stuff. An Australian mother has spoken of how she tried in vain to save her blind son from the wildfires. Shelley Sykes, a TV production entrepreneur, told Australian media of a desperate battle to save her 32-year-old son, Rory Sykes, who had cerebral palsy. Rory Sykes appeared in the British TV show Kitty Capers in the 1990s, had his own self-contained cottage on the estate. Her son was blind and had difficulty walking. Rory's feet with the heat started to swell and he couldn't walk very well. And he had problems with his tummy. So he didn't want to be far from the bathroom, Sykes told Australian Channel 9. He said, Mum, you go, I'm staying. Sykes said she could not leave her son alone on the estate. I stayed in the main property with my 2 peacocks in the bathroom because it was hard to breathe. Sykes said she saw embers on the roof of her son's cottage and tried to extinguish them with a hose, but there was no water coming out. She drove to the closest fire station seeking help, but was told they too had no access to water. When the fire department took Sykes back to her property, she found the cottage had been reduced to just black ash. There was nothing there. I'm just devastated. It's unreal. I cannot breathe. I've got a broken arm. I couldn't lift him. I couldn't move him. Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade said it was aware of reports of an Australian man had died and was engaging closely with local authorities. You know, I think a lot of people don't understand how quickly these fires will wipe a building out. And so the first thing, I'm thinking is, how long did it take to try and get help? But it could be minutes and the building comes down. This is horrifying, man. Let me show you this clip. You've seen it. I'm going to play it again.
Want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or, you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
I'm going to play that again for you. I'm sure many of you may have heard this. This is this is Larson. I'm drawing a blank on what this person's position was. Diversity chief. Okay, there you go. I'm going to play that again for you.
Which my response is, and their situation better? Is she strong enough to do this? Or, you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Yeah, that's the world they live in. Let me explain to you my disdain for this woke ideology, for these people, for what the Democratic Party has pushed in places like California. They tell you that the world they want to build is equity and inclusion. And the reality is they lack merit and capability. And so the response is, your husband got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire. Because she can't. Because she is a frail, obese, pathetic individual without the capabilities to do the job. But hey, LA is very satisfied that they have a, black lesbian individual in the position as opposed to any individual of any background who could do the job. Now, when they defend their ideology, of course they say, a man, your husband needs to be carried out. How about this, Larson? How about a disabled individual who can't walk? Did that person get themselves in the wrong place when they were sitting in their cottage and a wildfire destroyed their home, killing them? Was that their fault? They got themselves in the wrong place? These people are evil. They don't care about saving you. They don't care about saving lives. They care about adhering to their psychotic cult. And it results in the death of the disabled. That's one of the reasons I absolutely detest, I loathe these people and their ideology. Rory Sykes did not get himself in the wrong place. He was living peacefully in California, and a wildfire started. Some of it may have been caused by arson. One of these individuals appears to be an illegal immigrant who may have started these fires. So perhaps it is this ideology that causes the problems, exacerbates the problems, and then leaves you to die. And they mock you while you do. It's decay. It's cultural corruption and decay. You know, I dream of a world, and maybe I romanticize this country, where if there was a fire chief and a fire broke out and someone died, their response was, the buck stops with me. We didn't get there in time. We should have. I'm sorry. You know, even though it wasn't really the firefighters' fault, even though it wasn't really the fault of the government, they said, we failed you. We weren't able to save lives that day. That's the world I dream of or think of. Instead, we now have an inversion. Fire chief is apparently, so the conflicting reporting right now is the fire chief has been fired, but but apparently the mayor's office told ABC 7 that Crowley has not been fired, so we don't know for sure. How is Newsom still governor? How is he not resigned? How has Bass not resigned? How is the fire chief not resigned? How are the fire hydrants empty? And it's a really funny post. It's kind of sad, actually, where some liberal guy shows the high winds blowing, palm trees and embers spraying from the trees. And he says, can any MAGAs explain to me how a firefighter is supposed to stop this? And I just, you put water on it. Next question. Seriously. These people are evil, stupid, and often both. When you have fires, you put water on it. This is what you do. When your reservoirs haven't been filled, you don't have water. Guess what else? About 10 years ago, it's been reported that they voted to build more reservoirs because there was a drought. They did not do it. Gavin Newsom didn't care. Karen Bass didn't care. This is what Democrats do. It's the lowest common denominator. The short-term gains, the long-term losses. They don't care. They're not going to resign. They're not going to accept responsibility. They're not going to start deporting people. They will change nothing. Now, one of the funniest things about this, I mean, nothing's funny, haha, but I would say one of the ironic and disturbing things about this, Gavin Newsom says he's suspending environmental regulation to begin the cleanup effort. So these people are bashing their faces on the wall, screaming this is climate change's fault, despite the fact that it's discernibly not. Like when you have an illegal immigrant with a blowtorch and people screaming he's trying to start fires, and they're like, climate change. Was climate change the guy's name? His name is old Rick Climate Change. That's what they mean to say? Because it's a dude we can see. They blame climate change. Then, though this is climate change, in order to clean things up, they say suspend all the environmental regulations. I got a question for you. How many of these progressives who voted in these policies and these individuals are going to now go and protest the environmental regulations being lifted? Zero. Now, there may be some activists, don't get me wrong, but the property owners, they ain't going to protest this because these people are evil. They are evil people. Sorry, that's the banality of evil. If you own property and on the PCH and Palisades or whatever, and you voted for the regulations, I should say you voted for the people that did not do their jobs, and you protest and vote for climate change and all of these things, and then the moment you are negatively affected, you vote to lift it all, that's evil. Now, I will pause and say, the regulations should be lifted. Climate change isn't causing this. These people are nuts. But my point is that they vote for the destruction in total ignorance and apathy, and then they vote for self-preservation instantly. Nothing's going to change these people. No. I'm not blaming the victims here. There are many, many people I know who didn't vote for any of that stuff. And to a certain degree, I understand the ignorance. I understand. So we don't, I don't want to blame people in a crisis, but I'm not going to ignore the fact that you get what you vote for. So if these people are voting for these things, if they're voting for these politicians are refusing to resign, and then they're cutting themselves these special deals, I'm sorry. I'm hoping that the suspension of environmental regulation is a wake-up call for these people. But my point is, if they believe climate change caused this and they want to bypass climate change regulations so they can build their houses, they're basically saying they believe the world is ending, humans are causing it, and they should get a special exemption. Just like those people who fly to Davos or to COP, the climate action, they fly there in private jets. These wealthy millionaires and billionaires and global elites say, we got to stop climate change. One private jet, please. They don't actually believe it. They want you to live in the pod and eat the bugs while they get special treatment. If we deal with the illegal immigration and the crime, a lot of these fires probably wouldn't be happening. If you vote out these individuals like Newsom and Bass, these fires would have been solved. They would have been stopped. They're saying the Santa Ana winds are going to pick up, and it's going to get worse. They're saying it's going to get worse this week. Take a look at this. 4 fires visible right here. And the Palisades fire is getting bigger. It is spreading into Malibu. It's absolutely crazy. You wonder about some of these areas. How did they avoid the worst of this? I'm glad they did. It's not all rich people. It's largely wealthy individuals, but nobody deserves to have their homes destroyed like this. But I got to tell you, when you vote for these people, you get what you vote for. Smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Next segment's coming up at noon. Don't miss it. Become a member at timcast.com to support our work. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast, and we'll see y'all then.